you know, put your sandwiches on in the morning and on the way to work, and just have them heated up ready. Right, hello everybody. So this is a bike I've been wanting to put on the channel for a long time, because I see these in dealerships and also at the superbike factories there at Crawley very early. That's why the sun's coming into my face. But the BMW R1800, and there's a reason why these are so interesting. It's mainly because of the depreciation, but it's one of those bikes. These came out in 2020, and it was a bad time, wasn't it, to release anything, because we were at the beginning of COVID. And it was a bike that obviously took a lot of money to develop. It was a bike BMW brought out to take on the might of Harley and the big Triumph Rocket 3. But obviously, coming out of that time, it was difficult, wasn't it? And I think anybody that had products come out in that sort of period of time that you couldn't mail order, you're really struggling, or you couldn't continue to manufacture for a period because you couldn't have it in the factories. But when you look at this bike and the enormity of it, so you're looking at about 360 kilos, 1800 cc's, this enormous boxer engine. Although, having said that, when you look at this bike, it has a few issues, I think, size-wise, because when you actually sit on this bike, I mean, it is an immense thing without any stretch of the imagination. I've got these huge cylinders out in front of me. What I always find funny about things like this is the numbers, isn't it? It's like having two Z900s strapped to the bike, isn't it, really, in size? But it's not the biggest in the group, is it? So the Rocket, you're looking at about 2,500 cc's. But you'd think, well, a big bike like this, you know, 360 kilos, is it going to be, you know, has it got enough power? Because when you look at this bike, this is only running about 90 horsepower. So you'd think it's a little bit underpowered, really. But it's quite a high torque figure, about 150 newton meters of torque. But if you compare that to the Rocket, you know, the Rocket 3, 2,500 cc's, it's about 160 horsepower, I think. So it's, you know, about another 70 horsepower compared to this. And it's about 60 kilos lighter. So you got to think, you know, where would BMW going with this? But when you look at it, it's very much in that where the Rocket 3 appeals to sort of a few audiences, maybe 2 or 3 different audiences, isn't it? Sort of like the ultimate big cruiser, almost sport bike-like, isn't it? That huge engine, but the actual styling of it. This has got a very narrow appeal, isn't it? This bike, I think. Because you look at it and it's sort of, there's a little bit military in there, sort of harking back a long period. So you've really got to want this, haven't you? And I think it's such a narrow appeal to people. You've got to have a big enough garage to put it in, because it's about 2.5 meters long. You know, this is the same size as something like a smart car. I always think with built bikes like this, that if you're going to go abroad in it on a ferry, you got to look at the specifications and think, oh, do I have to pay a lot more money to take this bike? Because it is enormous. We've been reeling it around this morning. One of the chaps, he said, I'm going to watch your video. You said it was so easy to wheel around. It wasn't. It is enormous. It's a real heavy piece of kit. Although the weight is very low down, it's got one of those really annoying sort of flicky side stands, which is, you know, not the easiest thing to reach. And if you get it wrong, you know, it's going to go over. Unfortunately, but if it does go over, it's going to roll onto its cylinder heads, isn't it? But these are plastic. I presume they make these sort of plastic of sort of relatively easily replaceable, but you know, it's BMW, it's not going to be cheap, is it? Although this has got quite a few extras on it. So one of the reasons why this interested me so much is because of the depreciation of it. And by that I mean the financial depreciation, because when I came up here, I came up yesterday because Superbike factory had 3 of these in, and they had the base model, which was they called the first edition, which is actually really nice. It's sort of like the bare bones of this bike, and really pretty. It's all in black. And then you have this model, which is sort of the intermediate, and I'm going to show you the other model they've got, which is sitting behind the camera. But what's really fascinating about this, and why I wanted to do this video, is when you look at the depreciation of this. Now, this is a 2022 model. It's got 6,500 miles on it. So the price on this bike, as we speak at the moment, is just over £9,500. If you think about that from how much this is new, when you add the extras onto it, you know, screens, bars, bags, and all the rest of it, a bike like this to buy new from BMW, you're looking at about 25 to 27,000. Remember that? At the moment, we're looking here at 9.5. We're a bike with 6,500 miles in it. And an engine this big, you know, that's just running, hasn't it, really? The interesting thing was, when they had the 3 bikes in here, you had the first edition, you have this one, and I think the other one is the Continental, which you'll see has got everything on it. You still hadn't reached the price of the one new bike. And that's quite extraordinary, isn't it? That you could effectively have 3 for the price of 1. You know, the new bike, I think when we spec them up, which you can do on the Motorrad system, you know, you can add all the extra bits and pieces. Even being careful, we're only looking at about 27,000. So, you know, the 3 bikes here were available for under that. You know, just a pint and a pasty under that amount for 3 bikes. You could have your own fleet. So why is the depreciation so high? I think it's because of the market you're trying to sell it into, the UK. Whether it is specific to the UK that the depreciation is so bad. The bikes themselves didn't have any major problems. They do have a reverse gear, and there was an issue with the electronics of the reverse gear, and I think they overheated and sometimes caught fire. But you know, that was again, it was one of those things, a recall. And you think recalls are bad, and they are, in terms of those things should have been sorted out prior to this. But BMW are quite renowned for recalls, aren't they? You know, how many recalls were on the GS and all the rest of it. So, you know, we sort of come to expect it of modern vehicles in general these days, isn't it? They're not tested to destruction anymore. These bikes or cars are taken out, and then it's cheaper for the manufacturers just to do, you know, get your customer to test it to a point, and then do the repair afterwards, which is a strange way of doing things, but it's what they do these days. But I think it's a bike which is just too much for the UK market. I think it's too expensive when it's new. Obviously, the time at which it came out was, you know, didn't help it at all. Even though I think it's an absolutely stunning bike, I think this is beautiful. I think it's an absolutely stunning piece of kit. But you need somewhere to store it. It's got to be undercover, isn't it, really? And it's a bike that you know, you've got to be able to handle and the rest of it. When you think about the people that will be buying this bike, you know, people from my generation, it's a difficult bike to lug around. You know, get it in and out of a garage. If you've got a tight spot on the rest of it, you almost need like a railway turntable to turn this thing around. So, you know, an enormous bike, way too expensive in the marketplace. I think when you look at the amount of Harleys that you can buy and those Rockets and things, which would be certainly hold their price better anyway. The Rockets, they do depreciate quite quickly, but they stabilise at sort of like 12, 13, 14, 15,000. You're not going to be losing, you know, 2/3 of the value of the bike within 3 years. You know, it's extraordinary, isn't it? But the actual bike itself is beautiful. What I thought was interesting when you look at these giant cylinders, the sort of thing that you could, you know, put your sandwiches on in the morning and on the way to work and just have them heated up ready. There was a lot said about these cylinders and how they get a little bit hot and can get a bit toasty when you're riding the bike. But I think the tank and the thing, I love this because it's got these twin spots at the front, so it gives it a little bit sort of Harley police bike look, doesn't it? And that sort of thing, the old Indians and Harleys, I think it's lovely. For the money that you're paying for a bike like this, you know, which will last you a lifetime, you just think, wow, couldn't you do some bits on this and really customize it to the way you want, which I think is really, really lovely. Let's have a look at that other one. So this is the custom cruiser, the Transcontinental, which is an extraordinary piece of equipment. You look at the dash, it's obviously far more complex than this standard bike over there. But you know, you've got things like a Marshall stereo system, you've got the big screen. I mean, this is a 30-odd thousand pound bike, probably in excess of that, I'd say, with all the extras you got on here. You know, like the seat and the panniers. You got the Marshall speakers in the panniers as well. Never quite understood the theory around having speakers like that on a bike, but maybe you can hear it. But this currently is up at just over 12,000, with 9,000 miles on it. 2022 bike. You know, again, it's just running, isn't it? Really extraordinary. You know, if you bought this and the other one that we've just been looking at, you know, you're still only just up to 21,000. You know, you could have one for cruising the continents and one for cruising the streets, and you still haven't reached the cost of one of these new. Extraordinary. So that's the BMW R18. I think it's a stunning piece of equipment. And if you want to grab a bargain, if you want to save yourself 20,000 quid, there or thereabouts, look out for these second hand. You know, none of them can be that old. None of them are going to have high mileage on. I think it's interesting that when you look at the specs of this bike, they're saying that this will do sort of 50 miles to the gallon. I think you might struggle for that. I think you might struggle at 50 miles a gallon. It is going to tick over, but your 90 horsepower or 150 newton meters of torque with a bike that's 360 kilos, and then the person on it, and if you've got a pillion as well, blimey, that's going to eat some fuel. That's going to eat some fuel, unless you're on the highway and you could just chug along. But yeah, what a bargain! What a bargain these are. I'd like one. You know, if I had a house in not Monaco, something like Saint-Tropez, and I could just cruise through the mountains, that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? Right, that's the BMW R18. I just thought I'd bring you that. 3 for the price of 1. Fantastic. Right, take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you next time.